Hi and welcome back to part 2 of the nano felting and embroidery. The whole point of this is just to produce a little sample, and in the first video I showed you how to nano felt these fabrics onto some felt, and that causes them to create textures because they wrinkle up and get shrunk into the actual wool fibres underneath. And what I've started to do, hopefully you can see that, I've started to embroider into it and add detail. So we've got some sequins, we've got some lazy daisies, I've got some cross stitches, I've got some French knots with some beads. And the way I've done it is because these are quite blocky areas, I've tried to do it so that the colours strewn across and produce a more cohesive piece. So where we've got brown, for instance, I've come in with some green to bring the green into the brown, and then what I'll do, I'll bring the brown into the green, the opposite direction, to just bring those two areas together. So you can see there's a distinctive difference between these, which I would like to soften off with some embroidery. And what I'm also trying to do, if you can see, it's almost like planting a wild garden. It's almost like a strewn sort of clumps in a sort of a flowing way, almost organic in appearance. It's also creating like a bark or moss-like look about it. Well, it is in this case because it's browns and greens, where in the previous piece in my book, to me it looks a bit like the seabed or sort of corals. Let me bring that in and just... And so the teal and the pinks give it a completely different look. And then the other one, let me just remind you, the orange one. There's the orange version. Again, very coral-like in its appearance. So, as I say, this one is going to be more like bark. Let me show you some how I do the stitches. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because... Okay. What I've selected first, and I'll show you those, is I've selected all my threads. So I've got some quite fine, that's just a single cotton. So it's like almost like a perlé, but a very fine one. I don't know the grade because they were purchased on the wrap and they're not labelled, unfortunately. I've got some, this is sort of a rayon. These I bought from Sandra Beach. This is the number 5 perlé, hand dyed, variegated. This is also from Sandra Beach. This is the number 8 hand dyed. So I suspect that these are also, they're actually finer than an 8. I suspect these are a 10. I've also got a bit of metallic, a bit of bling, and then just some regular 6-stranded. So I've tried to keep my threads limited to those. I could have gone for a whole combination, but as I say, I've restricted it because if you have too many threads it gets too busy. I then have also got my sequins. If I just move my camera across, you'll see, oops, I've got my sequins and I've got my beads. I've got sequins and beads and I've got thread. So, straighten that up and let me start stitching. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work on this area here because I want to blend the brown into the green, because this at the moment, as I say, I find too stark. I might just zoom out a fraction because it's... There we go. So I want a colour combination that will bring those two together. And on the look of it, that will work the best because it's got both colours in it. then need to make a decision of what stitch I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to do the lazy daisy that goes from meander. Okay, I had started doing the daisy chain here, and unfortunately my camera for whatever reason decided it wasn't going to record it properly. Had a bit of a moment. So what I'm going to do is just quickly go back and do a few more lazy daisies. So this was the section that I wanted to try and hide a little bit. So what I might do is head up this way. Or I might head down here. Oh, who knows? What I might do is, because I've got quite a brownish colour at the moment, head into this green here. So these daisies, you come up, go back down where you came up, come up a little way forwards, and then you make sure the thread is wrapped underneath the needle. That forms the loop, and then you just sew the other side of that loop to hold it in place. I might just have a few more in this area. One more there, and then one more back into the brown, I think. Because I'm going from one colour to another colour, let's say, hopefully it blurs that edge a bit more. Like that. Might be quite good to have a few beads or, I don't know, sequins in this area. I'll just have one more here. And back down. So that's the lazy daisies. So that has helped to blend the brown into the green and the green into the brown there. The French knots, I'll show you how to do the French knots. What I've already done is I've already done a row of French knots going into a curve. So that's the curve I want to follow. And then I'm just going to fill in. So to do a French knot, you come up, you go wrap 1, 2, 3, or you can do less, you can do more. The more knots you do, the more wraps you do, so the bigger the knots. So go down, come up. You can do them close together, you can do them far apart initially, and you go back and fill it in with other threads, like that. Now I've run out of thread, so I'm just going to tie that off. And what I'm tempted to do is get another colour in there, a richer colour, because that's quite pale. So I've got a richer colour. This is a 6-stranded variegated. So I'm going to split it into 3. As I say, it's nice if you haven't got variegated, just to change up your colour thread every now and again. 2, 3, and back down. If you don't pull it tight, you'll see the loop can be quite loopy. Depends how loopy you want it to look. Whether you like tight knots. 1, 2, 3. back down. You do tend to get into a rhythm. Up, 1, 2, 3. Oh, that one moved a little bit. 2, 3. One, two, three. And I say they always look better, I think, in quite tight clusters. Working my way back down towards the tip. Like that. Might be the last one in that colour. So you can see that already the brown is showing up quite nicely on that green area. It's going to knot off. So I can put some more French knots to fill this whole beautiful crescent. That would be nice. I'd like some more cross stitching. I've done some here in a rayon. I think it'd be nice to have some more, perhaps in the browns. I might use this one. What's nice with the cross stitches is that the best thing to do for this sort of thing is to keep them large and organic and crossing over. So I've come up, come down, and they're not supposed to be even. If you make them even for this sort of project, you don't get the lovely textures. So I'm overlapping onto the green ones, but then I'm moving down into this area. What I might do is turn that round. See, all I'm doing is going across and across. Some along a thin, like that one. Some are a bit smaller. I might go that way. Might come back up towards this one. I might just finish with that, so I'm quite happy. Okay, it's supposed to be random and organic, which is what that is, so that's nice. I'm just knotting that off. So I've done the lazy daisies, I've shown you how to do the French knots, I've shown you how to roughly stitch your crosses so they're nice and organic looking. What I might do now is show you how I put sequins on. So I've got a scatter of sequins here, I've got a scatter of sequins there, probably want another scatter here to balance it so they kind of flow. It might be that I put some in this corner, might be too much. I might actually go for beads there and there. So I'm going to have some sequins down here. I managed to mix up my sequins. I've got some in brown, I've got a brown bag of sequins, I've got a green bag of sequins, though I'm disappointed with these. These are Crafter's Companion sequins, and many of them actually don't have holes in them. So yeah, it's a perfect variety of projects, not really, to be honest, but so I wouldn't buy them again. And then I've also got a packet of gold sequins as well, gold and silver, that I'd obviously picked up from, I think these were from Poundland when they used to sell crafting products. I don't think they do now. So anyway, so I've got a load of sequins there, I've got sequins there, so to balance it I'd like some sequins perhaps coming through there. So I'll start off with the tiny ones. I'm going to go for a tiny little brass one, then come forward, find another little tiny one, and then want to mix up the textures, so I probably want to get one that's got a bit of shape to it, or a different colour. I'm going to start finding some, perhaps some mini golds. I think I might have to pour some more gold out. Problem with sequins, they do get a bit staticky. A bit of gold, some of the green. Now, as I mentioned, these don't have holes in, so I'm having to pierce through them. Who thinks you can get sequins without holes in? That's too big. Slowly going up in size, so the centre ones are getting quite big now. Again, what's good about this is that I'm actually now sewing over a join, so where it hasn't quite felted properly, these sequins are actually hiding that fact that they haven't secured properly. And because of the way I'm sewing these sequins on quite close together, they're actually producing a fish-like, scale-like effect. Big one, gold one. I have no real destination, but it does appear to be forming a curve. Smaller gold. I have the tip here and then work my way back. So I've got some smaller brass just there. Perhaps one more tiny little brass one. And then I'll work my way back. I'll work my way back with some more sequins in a curve. But I've run out of thread, so I'm going to have to knock that off and continue that afterwards. Beads, when you come to sew beads on it, it's a similar thing. So if I wanted to put a few beads into here, again I'd pick up one of my 6-stranded threads and just cut 1 or 2 off. It might be for the beads, you might need to change your needle to a beading needle. I suspect that needle won't go through, so I'm going to change up to a beading or a finer needle. It's not actually a beading needle, it's just finer. Right, so let me just draw your attention to this area here. So I've done French knots and then I've interspersed it with some tiny little green and some brass coloured, or I say brass, brown coloured beads. They give it a little bit of a sparkle. I've popped a bead on already and I'm just sewing it down. And then I'm going to move to another space, grab another bead, got a bead on there, and sewing it down. Pop another bead just in there. And then I'd sew, I don't know, because they're quite tiny, 3 or 4 beads, and then I would do a little knot every now and again on the back just to secure them. And hopefully you can see the little beads in there. Well, thank you for joining me on this exploration of creativity, and I hope to see you again soon. If there's any other projects you'd like me to demonstrate, then please leave me a comment. Bye bye for now.